Hi guys, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and welcome to another live feed. And we are ending eating disorders using nothing but your brain, and not just on the individual level, but we are ending eating disorders on the planet. We know exactly how to end them, no matter how long it's been, no matter what health you're in, no matter how hopeless you feel in this. In fact, those are the very people that we help, because the truth is that a lot of bad information is out there that actually makes our relationship with food worse the harder that we try to fix it. And the number one cause of eating disorders is restrictive dieting, and not so many of the other things that there are myths about, that we bust those myths here on this channel. And the thing is that there's some very bad ideas and we need to speak up about them because it keeps people stuck in the cycle for years. And I get it. I was in that cycle for a very long time with binge eating and bulimia, and it's a really hard place to be, and most things that I tried made it worse. And now we know exactly what does work to end it. So hi guys, so fun to see you on. Feel free to comment and like and heart and all that jazz. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, because this is an important thing, and having that openness is going to be important. We're talking about a sensitive subject, which is this idea of, being fat for a reason. I'm fat for a reason. I'm fat to protect myself. I'm fat because I really want to be. There's all of this sort of undercurrent of these beliefs that actually keep people in the cycles of disordered eating for even longer. There are a couple of things that I want to say before we launch into this. So first, I just want to say up front, so you guys can have full options for what you do in your own lives, that we will acknowledge that rape, molestation, hard things happen in life, that women do get hurt, that those things exist in the world, and that will be acknowledged in this video. So if that is not something that you want to have in your ears or in your discussion, then feel free. You don't have to watch anything that you don't want to, but it's an important thing to talk about for what we're talking about today. So just want to let you guys know up front, we will be mentioning that those things do exist in the world. And the other thing that I want to mention is that we are talking about the feelings that women have when they are in disordered eating, and beliefs that they are fat or overweight, or whatever word that you want to use to describe yourself if you are of that size. And we are going to talk about that. And I just want to upfront say a few notes about representation. So I am not considered by society as a fat woman, and I can appreciate that. And I think that it is always better to have somebody who is lived in that experience. It is better to have a woman talk about how women feel. It is better to have somebody of a certain race talk about how that certain race feels. That is always the best thing. However, it is important that anyone in a group that is discriminated against, which is most definitely fat women are discriminated against in a huge way, that there are advocates and friends of people who may not fall into that category by society, but are still friends to it. I am all for supporting women of every size, every color, every culture, and just like the amazing women that we have, it is great for women to have male advocates. It is great for anyone who's in any oppressed groups to have advocates that are outside of that group. And so I'm stepping into that space today. I do so delicately, but I just want to say, no, I have not firsthand lived an experience of being discriminated against because of my size. Definitely that internal discrimination, because having an eating disorder, you're terrified of that all of the time, of ever becoming fat or being seen as fat. That's a big deal of what keeps us in the cycle. But when it comes to ending eating disorders, that is what we are the best in the world at. And when it comes to that, it affects women of all different sizes, and eating disorders affect people physically in very different ways. So just, in the last 6 months, we've worked with a woman who is 80 pounds and anorexic, and we worked with a woman who was, she was almost at the 400-pound mark, so high 300 pounds. And both of these people had disordered eating and a lot of overlap in the patterns that were keeping them there, but it just showed up physically in very different ways. So I understand, I fully acknowledge that I'm not coming with her firsthand experience with that, but I am coming from firsthand experience of ending eating disorders for women of all sizes and all ages in a huge spectrum. And so I'm speaking to that specifically. So just want to say that note about representation is important. And the language that I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using the word fat. Now, that is a word that can mean and feel different things for different people. I know that that is a word that is looked down on in society a lot, a thing that we are trying not to be. I want to acknowledge that fat is not a feeling and fat is not an emotion, that it is a word and a descriptor that people use, and some people feel bad about it and some people feel good about it. And there's a lot of people in the community of body diversity that have reclaimed that word, which is a great thing. So I'm going to be using that, and I'm going to be using it from the perspective of somebody with an eating disorder, because that's exactly who we work with. So we're talking about binge eating, bulimia, overeating, food crazies, body obsession, body hate, food obsession, that constant hamster wheel in your head, all of that. And we're going to specifically focus in today about this myth and idea that we are fat for a reason. And that if you are someone of a larger size, and if you would be considered by society as fat, that, well, there's a reason for that, and how that idea keeps us stuck. And I'm going to walk you guys through it today. So, in the society that we live in a fat-phobic society. We live in a society that really, most women would say it's better to be hit by a truck than to gain weight or to be fat. Like, we've got to examine that. And we've got to examine that we intellectually know better, that, oh yes, like everybody is fine, but that we have such this internalized fear from our society about ever being fat. And in that, we just need to notice, you guys, notice when we talk about these things, what happens in you when you think of, if you would already consider yourself fat, or if you have a fear of being fat. Like, what does that do internally in you to think about that? And that's an important feeling to pay attention to, because it's going to bring to your awareness a lot of the sorts of ideas that are probably not yours, and you don't need to feel bad about them, but that make really clear what our society thinks about women who are fat. Because what society thinks in that culture gets internalized in us, and that's an important thing to pay attention to, because a lot of times it's those ideas, even though we know they're not true, that keep us stuck. So I'm going to tell you guys a story that's a combination of a few different clients. Even though it's anonymous, I always want to be very respectful of our clients and their journeys, but this is an extremely common thing that comes up, and I'm just going to be very open about the journeys that we go through and the ideas that are out there in the world. And then we're going to talk about really what to do to fix this problem with food, instead of things that really dig us deeper into this hole. So I'll tell you about a client. Again, this is a combination of a few women that it's a very common journey of, that comes to us because they have a problem with food, right? They're overeating, they're binge eating. This is a problem that's persisted for the past 40 years. They're in their 60s now. They've just gotten better at hiding it as they've gotten older. It's taking over their life. Now they have diabetes. They are having all of these health problems, mobility problems. Maybe they've missed out on ever having a family or a relationship because of the isolation of an eating disorder, because of all of the confidence issues that come from never being able to have control over food, and not going places because you ate too much and you feel awful and you're embarrassed to be seen, and the effects that it puts on your physical body where you don't want to be seen. And so we end up hiding. And then as we get sicker and we get older, then we're worried that there's nobody there to take care of us. And it's a really hard path, and it continues to get harder the more years that we're in this. And so a common thing is that a woman comes to us, right? And she has a background. So we have a client that wants to get free of her eating disorder. She came to us and she had been molested when she was 7 years old. And she had had disordered eating for a lifetime. And it started around then, right? So she went to food and she thought that she was using that for comfort, and maybe she was at the time, right? It's like she felt awful. That's not an okay thing to happen. I completely acknowledge that that is not okay. The mistreatment of women and rape and being molested and the awful things that happen to women is 100% not okay. And we should be in a world where women are safe. But we do live in a world where women are not safe a lot of the time, and a lot of us get hurt. So she comes to us. She was molested when she was 7, and now she's in her late 50s. And she has had eating issues for decades now. It's been decades that she's struggled with this, and she's tried to lose the weight for 35 years, right? She's always been on the new diet, and oh, here's another diet, and well, here's the thing now, and oh, well, here's a diet that I haven't heard of before, so I better try that one. And so it's constantly either on a diet or off a diet. And when she's off the diet, she's binging. When she's on the diet, she's still binging. And she sees that it's not working. She's like, if that would have worked, it would have worked 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And so it's this constant failure. And this disordered eating has just kept going. And as she's tried to lose the weight, she's actually gotten bigger and bigger over the years. And so she said, okay, well, this has always failed. There must be something wrong with me, right? So it should work. I should be able to go on a diet and lose the weight and keep it off, but I always gain it back. So there must be something wrong with me. And so she starts in therapy. And in therapy, she gets the idea, as they start digging into all of the stuff that has happened to her, that she's sabotaging herself, or she reads a book about it, or she reads some self-help thing that gives her the idea that, oh, well, think back to your past. There must be some reason that you're doing this. There must be some reason in your past that you are turning to food this way. Well, yeah, you were molested when you were 7. That's it. There's the issue. That's the reason that for the past 45 years, you've been struggling with this thing with food. It's not really about the food. And this is why you never ever lose weight. Because, and this is the very damaging idea that we're going to talk about today, you guys. Because you're trying to protect yourself. The reason that you are eating all of this food, the reason that you're going back and back and binging, the reason that every time that you lose 20 pounds, you sabotage yourself and then you gain back 30, is that you're trying to protect yourself from being hurt again. You were hurt when you were 7, you were molested then, and you know that if you were to ever lose the weight, then you wouldn't be safe. The reason that you do this is because you're trying to protect yourself from being hurt again. And as long as you keep yourself fat, as long as you keep yourself in a state where men aren't looking at you, then you're going to be safe. And that's why you just keep on sabotaging yourself. That's why you've been sabotaging yourself for the last 30 years. You're fat for a reason. You're fat because it's really protecting you. That's why you can never ever let yourself get to this place where you're losing the weight and keeping it off. And so then she goes on a journey of, oh, okay, well, if I'm keeping myself fat to protect myself, then I've got to go back. I've got to relive all that trauma. I've got to, undig all of that. I've got to be able to forgive the people that hurt me. I've got to be able to feel safe no matter what weight I'm at. I've got to essentially get ready to be hurt. I need to be okay with being in a body that I'm going to get hurt in. That's the belief. I want you guys to follow me here because this is important when we really look at what's going on here. And so she's created this huge wall now that she has to overcome. Is all of her past trauma, all of her confidence issues, everything that she feels is, unsafe in her life. And so she does it. She spends 25 years, the majority of her life, she spends in therapy, undigging and undigging and undigging, and oh, well, this past trauma that happened when you were 7 probably created this other trauma later on, and then this is what happened with your confidence, and this is what happened with your self-esteem. And she's just digging and digging and digging for 25 years. And in those 25 years, she's gained and lost 50 pounds 5 times. And she'll gain all the weight back, and then she'll go on a diet and say, oh, well, now I'm really ready. Now I'm really ready. I've overcome my trauma. I can feel safe again. And so she'll stick to some diet. She'll lose 50 pounds, and then it'll come back plus some. And every single time that she loses 50 and she gains 60, she says, oh, well, I must not have sorted this out. I must still feel unsafe. There's a reason that I keep on creating this body. There's a reason that I keep on perpetuating my diabetes and keeping myself immobile and keeping an extra 100 pounds on my body. It's because I'm still trying to protect myself. And I guess I'm really not ready. I guess I'm really not through that trauma because I'm still sabotaging myself and putting this weight on my body. And then she just keeps on gaining that weight back. And now she's turning 60 and she feels like there's something still wrong with her. And then she sees one of our videos. And she realizes, like maybe she sees the masterclass, where one of the principles that we talk about is there is nothing wrong with you. And she understands this idea of, wait, what if there was nothing wrong with me in the first place? What if instead of looking for the past 25 years for what was wrong with me that has never ever fixed this food problem, what if there was nothing wrong with me and this is just a habit that I could break? And then she qualifies for our help. She ends her eating disorder in a matter of weeks. We never talk about her past trauma. We just fix the problem that she has with food. And she no longer sabotages herself. And it has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with what has happened in her past. No, that is not okay. That's not okay at all. Women should not be hurt like that. But she realizes that it was just a habit that she can break. And what she is doing now as a 60-year-old woman actually has nothing to do with what happened to her when she was 7. There's actually no control that that person that hurt her at 7 years old has over her as a 60-year-old woman that has accomplished so much and raised a family and had a career, that it's not actually that event from her childhood that is keeping her stuck. She can be absolutely out of it. And now this is the phase of what happens. So usually our clients, when they're done with their eating disorder, after trying for like 40 years, and now after 4 or 5 weeks of working with us, the mental clutter is gone. They're not sabotaging themselves. They're normal eaters. They feel at peace with food. They're forgetting food in the cupboard. They're able to go out and eat. They are not yo-yo dieting anymore. It's like, whew, free. At 60 years old, finally free. A lot of times the first thing that they do is they get angry. They get angry that they have suffered for so long under this false idea that they were fat for a reason, that they were doing this to themselves to try to protect themselves with all of this extra layer to keep men away. And they're angry that they bought into that idea and were told that idea for so long, and that they were in that suffering. And after that anger, then it turns into an empathy of how many of us suffer under that idea and how many of us have been led along for so long by something that was incredibly false. And then we can relax into the power and the steadiness of just being able to be done. The power and the steadiness of moving on with your life and not having to sort through that anymore and knowing that you already have. Like, you've sorted through all that. It just had nothing to do with how you were eating food. But this idea keeps people stuck for so long. And I want to get a little deeper with you guys in this because this is important. So I had a conversation with a client the other day, and she said, I was so angry because I had let, and this is in her language, right? I want you to see this from her perspective. I'm so angry because I let the person that had hurt me when I was 7 control me my whole life by thinking that my eating always went back to what this man had done to me. She said, I'm so angry that I've lost all of those years. But now at 65 years old, I'm so happy to know that that can't hurt me anymore because I know that it was never that in the first place. She's like, I sorted through that a long time ago. And I'm over that. And now I can be over all the ways that I've suffered since then. Yes, that was a horrible event. Yes, that had some lasting consequences. But I don't have to be controlled by that anymore. And I want you guys to understand that you do not have to be controlled and continue to be hurt by the people that hurt you. And there's nothing about having an extra 100 pounds on you that you have, eating disordered and binged your way up to that doesn't protect you. Let's go a little deeper with this. This is a conversation that we had. It's when we really peeled back the layers and looked at these patterns of thought that had kept this woman in this disordered eating and her eating disorder for over 40 years. It was this idea of, okay, well, this fat is here to protect me. And so we asked some questions, and I want to ask you guys the same question. Do you believe that only thin women get hurt? Do you believe that only women that are considered beautiful by society get hurt? And by extension, if that's a thing that we are believing, are we saying that it is the woman's fault? That if you are traditionally pretty, if you have a body that is accepted by society, that it is your fault, that you're being hurt, that you are putting yourself in danger by not being obese? really go and uncover these thoughts and these ideas, because I would hope that everyone within the sound of my voice would know that that is not true. Women get hurt in all shapes and in all ages and in all sizes. And there is nothing that we can do in the way that we dress or in the way that our bodies are shaped that are going to protect us from that. We live in a society that is dangerous for women. Yes, there are things that we can do to take precautions, but it is not our fault when someone else hurts us, especially not at 7 years old. And so examine the other side of this. If you've been told this idea of you are fat for a reason, that you are fat to protect yourself from the gaze of men, that you are fat to keep yourself from being hurt, look at the idea that women get hurt of all shapes and sizes. There's nothing about extra weight on your body that is protecting you. It is simply a lie that your brain has told you to keep you in this cycle for a long time. And sadly, it is perpetuated by a lot of people in society, this myth of, oh, well, you're fat for a reason. If you haven't lost the weight, I guess you really want to be fat. I guess you want to be in this place. Now, there's nothing wrong with being any size, and you can be healthy at any size. But when it comes to disordered eating and the way that we eat in a way that is out of control, that hurts our health, that drives up our weight to an unnatural place for our natural set point and where it's healthy for us, know that it's not for a reason and it's not something that's wrong with you. The reason is not some past trauma. The reason is because you have a habit that you can break and you can end this. And what we need to end is the really damaging idea that women are unhealthy and have an eating disorder because they want to, because they're of something that happened to them decades ago, and I guess they just want to be this way. Know that if you have an eating disorder, you know what I mean. You don't want this. You may question, you may think that there's something wrong with you. You may think, oh, well, maybe I do really want to be here. But what we know is that the women who come to us and get help to end this, no matter how long they've thought, oh, well, maybe I really do want to have an eating disorder, and that's why I haven't stopped. What they find out is that they haven't ended their eating disorder because they didn't know how. And when they know how, and when they put that into practice, then in a matter of weeks, they can be done with it, even if they've struggled with it for 45 years. And let's not perpetuate the idea that if somebody is stuck in a horrible cycle, or somebody is driving up their weight or hurting their health, or keeps on gaining back the weight that they've lost, that there's something that is wrong with them and they really want to be there. What this is that it is misinformation, and it is a myth from our society that we want to be this way, and that's why that someone else's help hasn't helped us. No, it's because a lot of times that help actually makes it worse. And that's what we're here to really speak about and speak into. And I hope you guys are able to really hear that, because it's a very important idea, an important idea to not perpetuate. So the reality is that it doesn't matter how long it's been, and it doesn't matter what shape or size you are, that you can be done with your eating disorder. It is a simple process where the foundation is to get clarity about what is happening, exactly what your individual cycle with food and this habit is, and exactly what you want with freedom on the other side of that, and then bridging that gap about what needs to happen for you to get there. That is the foundation of freedom. In fact, we offer a free breakthrough session that helps you to have this foundation of freedom, and we will guide you step by step in exactly how to get there. And we will either show you exactly what you need to do to fix this all the way, or we'll direct you to somebody that can fix what is happening. But we need to have that individual conversation and know what's happening with you. This is an individual thing. So you can go to lifewithlydia.com/apply. Again, that's lifewithlydia.com/apply. And that will take you to a page where you can book a free breakthrough session, and we will guide you through that foundation of freedom. Then what needs to happen to end this is you've got to break the habit of thought that has kept you in this cycle. If you're trying to do all of these external things, I've got to eat the right way, I've got to have accountability from somebody, I've got to make sure that I'm never triggered. That's not freedom. That's just you trying to put more walls around yourself to protect yourself from you. What if we just ended it at the root? What if we ended it at the very cycle and the habit that has kept you in this? And then once that's broken, you're not in recovery, you're free. It's not about having an eating disorder and managing it for the rest of your life. It's about not having an eating disorder anymore. And that is what we are here to do for the world, is end eating disorders. And if you are tired of being in this cycle, and if you know that you deserve a better life, and if you know that it has been enough time letting what other people have done to you and what your circumstances rule what you're doing, and you know that that doesn't have to be that way, then you can absolutely be out of this. But we've got to know exactly how to help you in that, and that's why we need to have that conversation. And we offer that as a free service. Again, you can go to lifewithlydia.com/apply and to book a free session. So thank you guys so much. Oh, love this. Oh, Brittany, hi. Allison, hi. All right, awesome comments. Yes, so true. Thanks for doing what you do, Lydia. Oh, you guys, I'm doing hearts. For those of you listening to the audio, I'm making a heart with my hand. Oh, thank you. And Allison is saying, I've never heard this said so well. Thank you. Oh, Brittany, so awesome. She said, I did Lydia's program almost 2 years ago. I've been totally free from my eating disorder ever since then. Yeah! It's totally worth taking the chance. Do the call. What do you have to lose? Love it, Brittany. And so proud of you for showing up for you and stepping into that power of like, okay, like I'm going to do what I need to do. And it's so amazing to see you now free, and just love that you are a part of this community. And it's so fun to see you, Brittany. Hi, hi, hi. Hello, guys. Feel free to say hello, hello. And we're going to wrap up here, but thank you guys so much for being on. You are an absolute joy. Thank you for being part of this community and encouraging each other and spreading good ideas. The reason that eating disorders still exist on the world is because there are so many very bad ideas about how to fix it. Most of the ways that people try to fix this, whether it's restrictive dieting or whether it's delving into past trauma or whether it's, trying to change the way that you're eating or trying to avoid all these triggers or finding out what's wrong with you, like all of those things perpetuate the disorder and make it worse. It is not hard to end an eating disorder when you know how. And that's exactly why we are here and advocating for putting good information out into the world. And so feel free to share this video and to, be here and in our community. And it's just so incredible to see you guys here. So mwah, 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 so much love. And we will talk to you guys soon. All right. Bye, guys.